Hello and welcome to the Spiritual Solopreneur Podcast. Today, my guest is Amber Rose. Amber is a light worker, energy worker, and ancestral medium, affectionately known as the grandmother medium on Instagram. She has all the clairs and has experience with spirit guides, ghosts, haunted houses, mediumship, and more. She lives on the beautiful island of Oahu and offers a mentorship program to help people develop their gifts. Welcome, Amber.
Thank you. I'm happy to be here.
Thank you for coming. Appreciate it. So,
Absolutely.
Amber, what is an ancestral medium? What does that mean?
An ancestral medium is a medium who has been one throughout many lifetimes. Generally speaking, your immediate ancestors within this life will also be mediums. So I have many within my family, and many that I know about in my past lives as well.
Awesome. Do you have communication with those folks at all? The ones from past lives?
I do. It's wow, that's kind of a huge, it's like a multiverse,
Sorry.
And it's like, that's a really big question. Because when you talk about ancestors, people think in the now, like my grandparents, my great grandparents, and so far down the line. And that is true. That is your ancestral heritage. And then when you go back into your past lives, you are not always within the same family line. You're most often not within the same family line. So you would be having ancestors within other family lines. So you have an incredibly large pool of spirit to be working with. And then the way that it all works is that we're reincarnated and come back and have human experiences again. So if you wanted to communicate with your great great grandmother, likely she is reincarnated and having a human experience again. Generally, most spirit that I've communicated with has shared with me that it's not common. It does happen, but it's fairly uncommon for people within your family line to reincarnate during their immediate family's lifespan.
Okay.
They will wait it out and guide them and check in on them and send messages and all of those wonderful things that we receive from our family members. And then when the last one that knew them passes, then they'll come back and have a human experience, or longer. They'll stay in the human plane. It depends on what their missions are.
Gotcha. So is there some part of them that's on the other side and another part or I guess that would apply to anyone, that, their soul is on the other side for partially, but they're reincarnated here?
No.
No. Okay,
So,
good.
generally speaking, no. So we're all energy, and energy just changes form. So when we pass, we change into a different form, maintaining our current sensibility of self in the immediate. So that's why we see stuck souls, ones that are earthbound that don't ever leave. They represent who they were when they passed. Everything they know about themselves is based on their human experience. Sometimes they don't even know that they're past. That can happen for hopefully not too long for them, but sometimes it does. And if you transcend and go to the higher plane, which most people do, I don't want to ever instill fear in anyone that they're going to get stuck, because that's not really a common occurrence. There's specific reasoning for that, but generally most people transcend. And you would go to the higher plane and you would just be energy. So you're going to exist in that realm as an energetic being. It's really not at all like what it's like to be a human being. There's no pain there. There's no sorrow there. It's not all like sunshine and rainbows. That's not really what it is either, but it's more just a different way of being that is described to me as being incredibly calm and peaceful. So just that sense of understanding that there isn't just a big black void at the end of this, and the peace that comes along with that.
Exactly. So when you are over there, you can become a guide, I suppose, to someone who's incarnated, probably some sort of a soul family member or something like that.
Mhm.
Um, so um, do we all have these guides that we can call on, and what's their purpose? What's their mission?
We do. Everyone, every being on this earth has ancestors, guardians, and guides. Everybody. We're all born with them. And when you come into the earth plane, you will generally have at least one guardian and one guide with you. And then whatever your mission is throughout life and whatever paths, whatever path you take, you could be assigned new ones to come in. So you don't necessarily have the same ones with you throughout your whole life. You can, and many people do. But depending on what your mission is, you'll have a guide that's assigned to you based on that. So an example I'll use is that I had a friend who comes from a family of alcoholism. And it's, there's a genetic component to that. And so she, her mother was an alcoholic and her grandfather and so on and so on and so on, so many within the family line. And she became an alcoholic. And when she got to the point in her life that she wanted to make the change and get sober, her deceased great grandmother appeared to her, not in a physical sense, like she
Mhm.
didn't see her, but she sensed her. She got direct messaging from her. She could hear her in her mind, talking to her, giving her strength and support and telling her she was proud of her. And it really helped her on that journey. So she was assigned then as a guardian based on experience. So I've been through this. I know your path. I also love you. You're in my family. I will be here for you. So that's it, like a very specific type of guide that will come
Awesome.
in, which is incredible.
Did,
Many guides are based on what your mission is.
right. So would that person have chosen to come into the alcoholic family and be an alcoholic and, have that particular trauma in their life?
I mean, the quick answer is yes, because when we do our soul contracts in the higher plane and decide we're going to have a human experience and these are the people we're going to have a human experience with, we accept the humanness of that. So it's not a perfect experience. If and many times you'll find these exceptional people in the world that come from great hardship. And those people, I would, if I knew them and could talk to them, I would find out probably that they are very old souls. They've been here many, many, many times and they can handle it. They know what they're getting into. They know that they have a much larger purpose than their immediate familial surrounding, or they could be like in a war-torn country too. I mean, there's that kind of trauma. But whatever they're going through is kind of steeling them for what they're going to face in the future and how they're going to be the skills, that they're going to be able to handle those things or the leadership that they'll present. So it's
Right.
pretty awesome because it's a basic understanding that there's what you're doing here as a human being is bigger than just going to work and coming home and all of those mundane, I call them muggle things, all of the basic going to the dentist and picking up your kids at soccer, and like those are all wonderful things and part of being a human being that we get to do, but we're not here for just that. There's so much more to our
Right.
purpose.
And I guess depending on where you're at in terms of how many lives and the evolvement that you've had, what you're doing here could be for the purpose of helping other people go through the same thing or to become a leader. And um, some of the famous people who are famous writers and things like that, other people are learning from them. But then you might have someone like just is going through trauma just for the purpose of being able to get through it themselves. Does that sound fair?
That is exactly right. Yeah.
Awesome. So, I often wonder about our guides and things. You know, my questions often is, have these people had uh, lives on Earth? Do they know what it's like to be down here?
They do. They do. They have to have had human experience in order
Oh,
to guide us. Yes. Um, if you to put it in a kind of a human way of thinking about things, there's like schools in the higher plane where you are I'm on this path to becoming a guide. I'm on this path to becoming a guardian. There are people who are, I call them people, but they're spirits that are purely academic, like the librarians of the realm, basically, and they're the keepers of information. They stay in the higher plane and they share and they teach. So that's, like if I know I've been a guide in previously in incarnation as spirit. I have that understanding. In this particular lifetime, I was very blessed to come through with a lot more information about previous experience. So it's kind of like coming in loaded with it, like like if I'm a computer, I have a lot of software installed already. I all my clairs were activated at birth. I had an awareness of all of this. I had an awareness that this wasn't my first rodeo. I've been here many, many, many times. I knew I had ancestors, guardians, and guides to call on and to assist me. I've had a lot of wonderful blessings like that, and also just understanding that this isn't new to me because I've experienced it many, many, many times, most times. So it was like when I was a child, I was really in this space of, when am I going to get to be old enough to do what I need to do? Like I've done this kid thing a lot of times. I'm just like, okay, yep, all right, I'm 10, I'm 20, 30, like hurry up, let's get to. But enjoying my life and and appreciating the day for what it was, but also knowing that the timeline was further down and that I needed to get to that point to do the things that I need to do in this lifetime. So there was kind of a sense of, what I'm doing right now is lovely, but also very temporary.
right. That's so awesome.
Mhm.
So why do some people, I mean, I think in your case, it's a little special. You have all the ancestral background and you probably, as a spirit, you purposely brought some of that information with you, I would assume.
Yes.
Um, so how come some of us have a lot of these things, uh, different clairs and things, and some of us don't seem to have anything?
The I'm trying to figure out how to frame this. The correct answer is, all of us do have all of these things. We are born with this ability, and then we shut it all down based on what our human experience is. It could be fear, it could be religion, it could be any number of things. It could be your mission as your support person to someone else. And so you need to perform that role in the way that's designed. And, but it's a lot of clairs are uncoverable. You can work on it and develop them, which is wonderful, because I didn't know that when I was coming up in the world. I thought, okay, well, these are things that I have, and I've met other people that have different ones, and we all experience things similarly but not the same. So we have common experience in terms of things that we see, things that we hear, our basic understanding about the higher plane and energetic
Yeah.
beings. But it's fascinating to me how people perceive, because it's not ever the same thing. Like what a spirit says to me and the way that I receive it and what I hear and what I feel is not the same as what someone else who might have all the same clairs is going to experience.
Hmm.
So that is just fascinating. But within my mentorship group, I have people who are working on developing clairs that they have, like they're kind of activating. They're aware that there's a possibility that that's there. I have one woman who is a medical intuitive, and her ability to receive information through touch has greatly expanded since we've been working together. And that is an incredibly powerful gift to have.
Oh,
So
yeah.
very excited about that. But yeah, it's it makes me super happy that anybody that has interest in wanting to learn, you can definitely expand that. I think there's an element of fear for a lot of people that they think, well, I'm really curious about this and I want to speak to the other side, but I don't want to see them. That's what I
Right.
hear. Like, I want to hear, I want to understand, but I don't want to see them. And for me, I think it's not like, why would you not want to see them? It is so cool to see them, but I think the perception is what you see in movies where they're like, they look like they did when they died and they maybe are like decomposed or whatever, like in a zombie state. And like, that's not really what is happening. It's mostly energy form. Like sometimes it's just a wisp that comes in. Like if they've reincarnated a whole bunch of times, they know how to work with their energy and they're going to come in and just be like this beautiful white mist and then like maybe some silver and they'll show me some colors and then they'll maybe push their face out so I can get a human perception of what they look like. But generally they just are that and they feel really wonderful. And I'll smell their perfume or whatever cologne they wore. They like to be in specific places like an orchard or like I'll get all of those types of things associated with them. So it's a pretty awesome experience
That
to
is
see them.
beautiful. I can relate though to being scared
Sure.
to have something like that in your face, after
Mhm.
many, many years of not.
Right.
So I can understand somebody saying, yeah, I want to have the communication. So how could the communication be then if we can sort of take, seeing out of the picture?
Mhm. It's simpler than people think. It's desire to connect, in setting intention, being present, and a lot of it is working with your own energy and just being, which seems very simple, but is actually super challenging for most people because we're all very overstimulated and we have the attention span of a gnat at this point. So to just sit with yourself in silence and ask for information requires a lot, but you just start in small increments. Like, okay, today I'm going to do this for this time and be very specific and intentional about who I want to come through. The thing that really gets me is when I am watching a movie and someone goes, is anybody out there? Or if you're here, show yourself. That is super dangerous. Because that's really anything. Like if you go into a creepy building and then say that you have a vibe about, and then say, is anyone here? Show yourself. You're inviting in anything that's there. It could be a spirit, just benign. It could be an angry spirit. It could be an entity of some kind. I mean, there's all kinds of stuff that you're invoking at that point. So there's definitely safety parameters around connection. But if you're in your home, you're safe, you've created a nice bubble for yourself of energetic protection, and you ask for your grandmother to come in or to give you a sign or anything like that, that is completely safe. And I really believe that you can block the seeing because if you don't want to see it, you're not going to see it. Your unconscious mind's going to protect you.
Mhm.
It's not going to allow you to open up that extra filter so that you can really see. So I think for most people, unless they've had a near-death experience where they've been to the other side and then come back, they have a much higher likelihood of seeing after that because they've been there. They've opened the doors wide and then said, okay, this is my new experience. This is the way that I interpret energy now. So then you'd have to like teach yourself how to not do that, which is pretty challenging. So, but most people that I've spoken with that have had that experience are really happy about it, that they now have this and they have this sense of peace because they understand that death isn't really the actual way of dying might be frightening, but the actual after death part is not.
Right.
So that's really beautiful for them.
Absolutely.
And I get that. Yeah. If I never saw anything my entire life and then just saw someone standing at the foot of my bed in the middle of the night, that would be jarring.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think it would be.
Uh,
Maybe
that'd
during the
be
day would be okay, but at
right.
night you'd be
Yeah,
scared.
a nice museum ghost to start off with, just somebody in the corner
There you
wearing a
go.
period outfit. That's
Saying
kind of
hello.
cool. Hello. Yeah, like you can dip your toe in and kind of go
Ex-
gently down that path.
Exactly. So there
Mhm.
are these lower level entities flying around us. Are they around all the time? Are these elementals, or who are these the lower level folks that we want to kind of stay away from?
There's a whole darkness, I mean, if you want to look at it in terms of dark and light, um, they can't exist without each other. There can't be light without dark, and there can't be dark without light. Um, so that stuff is always in our world. It's a matter of engagement and vulnerability. So if you're in a place that is pretty, like if there's abuse in the home and a lot of sadness and all of that energy is being put out, what's attracted to that energy is like. So you're bringing in, not to say that people that are depressed are bringing entities in. I really don't mean that, but there is going to be a very heavy energy associated with the space around their house. And then if they aren't protected in the sense of being aware of their energetic space and conscious of, okay, this is my bubble that I exist in. I want to be safe in here, even if I am chronically depressed. That is very possible. Then stuff can just come in. If you're just like, I just don't want to be alone. I just want comfort. I want, anything, anyone. That's
Mm,
when the things that prey on you come in, where like a lot of times kids who feel like they have nobody and they're all alone and they'll call out for something, but they're not specific about what they're calling out for. And what they'll get is something that wants to prey on their vulnerability. So it's like, that's kind of the worst part of this. Just like it's like we're not vulnerable enough as human beings in our life experience, but then we're preyed upon by this darkness as well. But that is true. So it's something that I'm very aware of. And that's my number one priority in anyone that I work with is safety and how to protect yourself and your energy at all times so that you can freely exist in the world and experience things as you like, rather than having them come at you all the time, because that can be incredibly draining.
exactly.
Mhm.
Yeah, especially for empaths, I guess, and the more highly sensitive folks
Mhm.
that are going to be more susceptible to this kind of thing. If you're afraid all the time,
Mhm.
it's kind of in a way trying to reach out for some comfort, right?
Mhm. Yep,
And
exactly.
that could be what you end up with. Yeah.
Right. And it's a trickery thing, where it feels comforting because these beings will tell you what you want to hear.
Mm,
And then they want something from you, so it's total manipulation. Like, yes, I will give you that. However, there's a cost. And then that comes out. But when it comes out is when the person is so supported by this that they are totally blind to what's actually happening. And they're like, well, but why would I want this to leave? This makes me happy. This makes me feel better. This listens to me. No one else listens to me. No one else cares about me. This does. So why would I
mhm.
want it to leave? And there's some pretty sinister stuff going on. But
Yeah,
I want to say it's extreme, but it's really not. It's fairly common.
that's what I've heard, actually.
Yeah. Yeah,
It's more.
it's fairly common. There's a lot of things that are ascribed to mental illness that are not mental illness. They're entity attachment or demon attachment. And that is uh, a stark reality of living in our human experience and understanding that the world it's not just what we see right in front of our eyes all the time. There's so many things happening that most people don't perceive and are completely unaware of.
Exactly.
Most people aren't even really living in their, I mean, not most people, but a good portion of the population is not really fully in their body. So the soul is kind of, the way this looks to me is, if a person isn't fully connected to their soul, like integrated, is that their soul, they're like half of their body is like up here. So like their head actually is here, and then they're going like this, and then like their feet like hit at the knees, and they're not really in their body. And
Not
some people walk
grounded.
around like that all the time. They're not grounded, they're not integrated. One of the first things that I teach is soul integration meditation, to greet your soul in the morning, because when you're asleep, you're not integrated with your body. You're everywhere. You're astral traveling, you're, floating above your body. I mean, whatever you're doing during that crazy dream space time is not integration. So when I wake up in the morning, I go, okay, good morning, welcome back to my body, soul. And then I visualize my soul integrating my body. And I start from the toes and go up, but you can go the other way. It just depends on what feels right to you. And usually I will visualize my body filling with a cloud, like a beautiful pink, like sunny, happy cloud that just kind of comes in really slow. And then once I know it's at my crown chakra, and then I see the white light beaming from there, and then I know, okay, I'm fully here, I'm charged up, I'm ready. And then I do a whole bunch of more things before I get out of bed to prepare for the day. But that's a basic thing that I teach people, just to say, okay, let's just make sure that you're integrated with your body. Then we move on to like, how are we? Are we grounded in our space? Is our space safe? How are we then creating a bubble to move about in the world, so that when you go out, especially if you're a very strong empath, you can walk past an animal shelter and not cry uncontrollably, because you're feeling all of that suffering in there. So it's, that's a specific example that I did with somebody. But it's she was like, I just want to be able to drive past a shelter and not be crying for 4 hours afterwards.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay, here's what we do. So
That is the sensitivity that, yeah.
Yes. And it's, it's a beautiful thing to be sensitive, because it means that you are connected and you're feeling and you care about things, but it can be crippling if it's just too much.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
So I guess we talked about the messages that we can get. If we're not seeing or hearing, is it feelings or numbers or things like that our guides send us, in some way, messages? I mean, I think I get messages through YouTube and listening to the radio, or snippets of conversation and things, especially if they happen all together in a clump.
Mm-hmm.
So does that sound like that somebody talking to me, or is that just these things happening?
It's most times it is someone trying to communicate with you. There's a lot of things that people dismiss as, oh, it's just a glitch or whatever, because we're programmed to think like that. I mean, that's how society functions, in a very mundane way. Like, well, everything can be explained by science. It's all this way. Like, no, that's not, like, I believe in science 100%. I love science. I think it's awesome. But I also fully understand there's way more there that's unexplainable, that I don't know when humans will ever get it. I mean, eventually they might, when we all start communicating through telepathic means, which will happen once we get to a state where we can't sustain the intense technological way we communicate, which is what we're doing now, where we're always on a phone, we're always, tuned into the device rather than into each other. Because when humans first emerged, we communicated in an energetic fashion. Before we had language, we communicated with energy with each other. How does that vibe feel from that person? Is that a safe person I can be around? The same it is for as it is for animals or natural environment, where you just get this sense of, oh, I probably shouldn't go over there. That seems like not for me, not
Sure.
safe.
Like intuition.
And yeah, it's intuition, and it's very, very finely tuned. It's
Mm.
a beautiful gift that we're given. And then we shut all that stuff down because we're like, well, this is how you communicate with people. This is what you do. This is what you say. And then you find people relying on, like, they'll tell this, I hear all the time. Somebody will say, well, I've had many instances where my intuition was telling me one thing, but then I did the other thing because
Oh, yeah.
this person or that person or whatever, logic told me it should be this, and it was totally wrong, and it ended up being a problem. And like, well, yeah, your intuition is always going to steer you in the right direction. Whether you listen to it or not is a whole different matter.
You have free will. You
Absolutely,
can,
absolutely, absolutely, you
you can
do.
blow it if you want.
Mhm. And we do. I mean,
Yeah.
I've done it. I
Yeah.
know, I know better, definitely, and I've done it many times. But I've also had some crazy experiences where if I hadn't listened, something disastrous would happen, but I had to do something really out there in order
Oh,
to
really?
to, to listen. I once was driving here on the island, near the water in the dark, and it was near a park where there's some homeless people there sometimes. And in particular, there's a woman who gathers recyclables, and that's like her thing. She always has like a bag of cans, and she mutters to herself. She's very harmless, but she's kind of a fixture. And I was just driving, and I was probably going like 35 miles an hour, not super fast. And but it's pitch black. I can't see anything. And I hear very clearly and very loudly, stop. And I knew, oh, this means stop the car, like hit the brakes. And I did, and she was standing right in front of the car. She smacked the hood, and then she went away. And I would have hit her hard, if I didn't do that. I didn't ever saw her. I was paying attention, but it was so dark, and she just walked right in front of the car. And then she just, of course, was mad at me, and she went on her way, which was fine. But I
Wow.
thought, if
Wow.
someone saw this, they would just assume that I saw her.
Right.
But it wasn't like a screeching of brakes or anything like that. It was just hit the brakes hard. Thankfully, we very rarely have any weather to deal with. So there was no like nothing preventing me from stopping appropriately. But that's one thing where I just thought, wow, that was one of those things. And I've had those. I've had the like, don't go in there, turn around, leave, where I'm committed to something, I'm supposed to do it, and then I just have to not do it. And then something happens, and I would have been hurt, or, something else would have
Wow.
occurred had I done that. And so I listen every time now, because that's my way. My way of living is intuitive. That's how I function. I feel through everything. I would say that I don't think about anything, but I do, obviously, but it's generally that's not how I make decisions or kind of move through the world. I feel, how does this feel for me? What am I feeling right now? What do I feel I should do? And that's just so natural that that's how I move through the world. So it's,
That's,
when I say I think, I'm maybe doing math, like
yeah.
that's
Yeah.
that's that's what I'm talking about.
Yeah. No, that's awesome. And for a lot of us, it's not that easy to do because the path seems to be, other people are expecting certain things, and you
Mhm.
thought you probably should do it this way, but then all of a sudden your intuition is telling you, you get that feeling in your gut, like "Th- this, I don't have a good feeling about this," but it can be okay and it cannot be okay.
For sure. For sure. Yeah. And if you start questioning and thinking, you'll generally talk yourself out of it and
Right.
into doing the thing that you shouldn't be doing.
Yeah.
It could be anything, but it's hard because we're in a human experience, and we have to do human things. And then when your intuition is yelling at you, run away, don't do this. And that it's hard to then just have complete faith and say, okay, I'm gonna walk away. And
Especially if you're
whenever,
waist deep into something already.
exactly, exactly. Like you've gone 3/4 of the way, and now you have to turn around, that kind of thing. But that's definitely happened to me. I've had that instance and almost stepped off a cliff. I've had that instance and almost had something fall on me. I mean, just like all of those things have happened to me. So I
Wow.
listen, I pay attention, where I'm just like, okay, I've been lost in the woods and had guides lead me out of there. Like, okay, there's a bird on that branch, follow that bird. Okay, keep your eye on the bird and then turn, go here, just follow the bird, and make your way out of here.
Wow.
Just faith in that.
Yeah.
But like, okay, this is what I'm doing.
I think a lot
This
of
is my
times
path now.
these things are tests of faith, do you think?
Yes, they absolutely are. It's this journey is, it's not religious, but it is very faith-based.
Mhm.
I mean, I do believe in God, but there's so much faith involved in all of it. And that's uh that's a bridge that is a commonality, because there's a large portion of people who think, oh, well, you're a spiritualist, so you don't believe in God, or you don't think this. And I'm like, that's not really true. It's, that can be true of the specific individual, but they can coexist with each other. But I
Yeah,
believe in God in the sense of like the one true source, the
exactly.
not as like this person sitting on a throne that
Not
is,
a man in the sky, but
no,
but
no.
a a, an energy. But I
Mhm.
mean, we're all made up of that energy too, I
Mhm.
guess, right? So there's
Yeah,
nothing to be afraid of or um yeah, I don't know.
yeah, yeah. No, it's wild. It's wild
It's
stuff.
a lot of people have different views on that.
Yes, and I respect that
Yeah,
for sure.
totally. So I wanted to ask you about ghosts and haunted houses a little bit. I know living in Hawaii, there are some
There's lots.
over there. There's lots of them. Um, I saw a thing on YouTube the other day where somebody was talking about a ghost in their house, and it would just do kind of crazy things like tie their shoelaces when they should be untied, or
Mhm.
move stuff around or things like that. So, what do you say to somebody who has something like that? And maybe and some people probably okay with that,
Mhm.
but if you're not open to it, is there anything you can do to encourage this person to, uh, go into the light or whatever it is?
Yeah, I mean, there's a couple of different ways of handling that. There's, if the person is amenable to sharing space with the spirit, then we create kind of a roommate situation where, like, okay, I respect you. I understand this is your home. What people don't remember is that the ghost was there first. So it's their house that you're moving into. You're impinging on their space. So you're the interloper, not them. And if you're respectful of that, understanding, like, especially if you move into like a really old home, and back in the day, people died at home. That was completely normal. So you have like the person who maybe built the house is lingering because they love it and they're attached to it and they want to stay around, or any number of reasons why people would be around. But you just establish a dialogue of, okay, hello, I understand you're here. You just speak to them freely and respectfully, and acknowledge, like, hey, I know I'm in your space. I'm totally okay with that. If you could just maybe stop tying my shoes together, I would really appreciate it. It makes it so much harder for me to get to work on time. Like that kind of stuff. You can do that. If they're malicious, that's an entirely different ball of wax. Then you're dealing with, they don't want you there. They've claimed ownership of the home, the land, and that is a much bigger problem to deal with, where you would need a specialist to come in and exorcise them out of the house. It could be a shaman, or a priest or, any number. I mean, there's a lot of people tend to think just priests do exorcisms, but really many, many trained people do. And there's rituals and ways of removing them from the space. There are some places that are so entrenched with this type of energy that it's best to just walk away, because you're not getting that out of there. And it's going to be a long road of trying to exist within that space in any kind of harmony or safety. So, I mean, that is a thing. Like, you can be in a space that you just really just need to move out. Like, that can happen. But generally, if you like, I have a ghost in my house. She's an older Asian woman. She's here. She's actually Japanese. She's here because she has a relative that's close to passing in the vicinity. She's choosing to wait it out in my house because we lived in Japan for a while and I have a lot of Japanese art here, and she feels comfortable in the space. So she's in the room that has the most Japanese feel to it. And
she has her own room.
she has her own room. It's a guest room. She's perfectly comfortable in there. And she makes tea, like the old traditional way with the whisk. And I mean, like, she's very quiet and she has a very calm, peaceful energy. I enjoy her. And we don't really chat. She's just here and we have an understanding that she's passing through. And I'm like, yes, of course, you're welcome. You can stay. Wonderful. And I know why she's here, and it's fine. So,
and eventually she'll go.
Eventually she will go. She is waiting for her relative who's close, so that she can be there for them and guide them to the other side. So that's her role. And she doesn't want to be in their house the whole time, because there are people within the home that are sensitive to spirit. And by recently I had an interaction with a person who was passing, and the family members reported having like spirits around them. Like, they never sense stuff, and then they could sense like the energy of somebody. And I was like, okay, well, that person's close to passing, so you're picking up on people that are close to them, or and they're like, well, I have this one person, I don't know who that is. And I was like, well, it could be somebody that they know that you don't. It could be a childhood friend. It could be a work colleague that they're really close to. It could be any number of things. So that will happen. So it kind of gets like crowded, if you will, with spirits. And so she's kind of keeping her distance because she has a very specific role. But she, of course, goes over there and checks in all the time.
That's interesting. So it's not simply that, it's not always that you have a very old house with somebody who died in there many moons ago, and they have some reason for staying. A ghost can actually come in for a specific reason.
Yeah. Or they'll try. I mean, here we have sacred pathways all over the island. Hawaii is an incredibly spiritual place. It is at a high vibration. There are amazing energy centers here. So there's a lot of spirit activity. And if your brand new condo is built in an area where there is one of these pathways, there's going to be spirit activity around. It's not necessarily like you were saying, like it's an old building and there's, it could be the land. And that's where the haunting comes in. But haunting to me is a word that is often associated with something that people don't want. Like, well, my house is haunted, in the sense that something's lingering that you don't want to be there, but it's more just kind of coexisting.
Yeah.
I mean, most times it's that way. Most times people have spirits in their home and they're totally unaware that they're there. Many, many times I've gone to someone's house and there's a spirit that lives there and they don't know. They're just like oblivious to the fact that there's someone there with them all the time.
So apart from having a specific mission or reason to come in, like your Japanese lady, why do they hang out? Why do they hang around? What are some of the reasons that they don't, move on?
They can feel, I mean, the classic one is they have unresolved business. that they feel they need to complete. That's pretty common. They also could be feeling a sense of guilt about the surroundings of their death. I had a child that came into my house when I lived on the other side of the island, and I lived up against the Koala Mountains, which are very sacred. And I had kind of a spirit highway in my house of just spirits coming in and going through, and it was a lot of energy. And this girl came in. She was about 7, and she was a native Hawaiian girl, and she had passed a long time ago, a couple, like over 100 years ago. And she wouldn't ascend because she didn't listen to her parents and drowned. So she felt like she was in trouble and that they were angry with her because it's her fault that she died, because she did exactly the thing that they asked her not to do and fell off the wall and into the water. There's a lot of places to drown here. Hawaii is actually incredibly dangerous. So, there's a lot of places to die if you don't pay attention and watch what you're doing and not go where you're not supposed to. And the currents are treacherous. So there's all of that. And she did exactly the thing she wasn't supposed to. She drowned. They never recovered her body, because that happens very frequently here with the currents, that they just go, you're out and you're in the ocean. And so she was just convinced that she couldn't ascend, even though she knew her family had her entire family is passed on at this point.
Mm.
But she knew she's like, well, I can't because I didn't listen and it's my fault and they'll be angry with me. So after just working with her, we got to a place where I was like, do you want me to try and contact your mom? Would you feel better if your mother told you she had forgiven you a long time ago and just wanted to be with you? I said, because I know that as a mother, she feels that way. And she thought, it took a while. It took like a couple weeks for this to happen. And she finally got to the place where she felt comfortable enough to do that. And I called her mother and she was there, boom, immediately, because she's been waiting for her. And she came in and they chatted for just a quick second and she was gone.
Oh, wow. Good for you.
So, yeah, it was really beautiful. I was like, this
gorgeous.
is just a lot of tears because it was so sweet,
Yeah.
So I'm a mother of daughters as well. So there's nothing they can do that I wouldn't forgive. And I knew that. And I was like,
sure.
I'm sure that's the case with your mother. She just wants you with her. And, you can be reunited with everybody.
And the girl was young when she died, right?
Yes.
So she doesn't grow up or anything.
No.
As a ghost. She's still a little girl.
Right. She's still a little girl.
How come the mother didn't come anyway?
Oh, she had tried numerous times to talk to her, and she just wasn't picking her up. She was so entrenched in her own mythology about what was really happening.
Okay.
She wasn't connecting with her. She was trying to reach her. She'd give her signs. She'd put things in her path that would be reminders of, I'm your mother. This is who I am. And she would look at it and go, oh, this reminds me of my mom. And then just move on.
That's the end.
She just wasn't just doing her thing, just playing. And they don't really have the same concept of time that we do. So it's, they're like making hash marks on the wall of, okay, I've been here for this many days. That's not happening. So it's very relative in terms of time. Time is a construct anyway. So it's like trying to explain time to the higher plane, like they're in a completely different.
Yeah, try and explain daylight saving time to the higher plane. Right. I don't even get it.
No, it's for farming.
Yeah.
And most people are not farmers anymore. So it really serves no purpose. We don't have it here. So I'm really happy.
Oh, you're lucky.
Nice. I just have this time of the year where now it's 6 hours between us and the East Coast, and in the winter it's 5.
Right.
So that's it's just that.
So you were able to, the fact that you were able to talk to this girl and get her to open up to the idea of seeing her mom, that's what allowed her to see her at that point. That's fantastic. Is that type of thing your mission, do you think, that the reason that you have these gifts and what you want to use them for?
It's part of it, but it's not the central part. My larger mission is to guide humans to their intuitive gifts so that they can exist in a more balanced, peaceful state. And this has to do with the world at large and the way people are so divided, they're so angry, and just understanding that we are all way more alike than we are different. And our experience is way more alike than it is different. And we all have, these beautiful souls around us that are here for us to support us. And it's kind of, I guess it's just about slowing down and acknowledging that the beauty really is in the small things, just that there is nature that we can be in, that we can have calm contemplative moments within ourselves, and that the greatest gift that we can give is to be of service to someone else in whatever way, with whatever skills, gifts, abilities you have. And my way of mentoring is in a very maternal way. Like, I will go on this journey with you. I will teach you things based on what you would like to learn, and I will hold your hand. So it's not scary. It's not like, okay, go do it, I'm pushing you out of the nest. It's really just like, I want to be there as a support system. I mean, that's what really lights me up when somebody says, I have been wanting to communicate with my mom for however many years and always felt like I couldn't do it and cut off or scared or whatever. And now I hear her, or I receive messaging from her, and I feel so much better about just everything in my human experience. So it's more about helping the humans than it is about connecting. Because the spirits are fine. I mean, the stuck ones are not fine, but a lot of them are. A lot of them are like, oh, yeah, this is just what I'm doing. And many times there are spirits here that are not stuck. They're from the higher plane. They're here because of whatever. They're checking on somebody. They're sussing out what's going on in the world and reporting back. I mean, that happens too. So we have these really cool ancestral spirits with Hawaiian ancestral spirits in the tunnels here that are always there. So usually, there's anywhere from 2 to 8 I've seen in the big tunnel on Hawaii 3. And I started noticing those spirits when I first got here. And my husband was driving and I was looking. He's like, what are you looking at? I was like, well, there's spirits in here. He was like, there are? And I was like, yeah, and I'm counting them. Okay, there's 1, there's 2, there's another one, there's 1. And they're all wearing like traditional Hawaiian clothing, and they have like staffs and so they're like chieftains. I mean, they're really serious people. And then I learned about the history of the highway, and that's a whole secret land, and there's just this whole thing. And so they're like literally guarding this sacred path. And I was like, that is so cool. But we had an accident in that tunnel where we got hit. We had to come to a complete stop going almost 60 miles an hour because the cars were stopped in the tunnel and we couldn't see them. So we just came up on them, we stopped, we didn't hit the car in front of us, and then all the cars behind us hit us. It's like 6 cars, and one went like underneath our car, and immediately 2 of those ghosts were in the car with me right here. And I was like, hi, they're like right there. And my husband's looking at me, and I'm just like going like this, and there's a spirit here and a spirit here. And there are these 2 chieftains, and they're like, are you okay?
Aww.
I said, am I still here? And they said, yes. They said, we're not here for you. We know you can see us.
Right.
So we're checking on you because that was traumatic. And I was like, okay, thank you. Thank you very much. I'm very honored. I appreciate all you do. I understand why you're here. And I was like, this was a really amazing experience. That's not like a normal spirit interaction at all. And then my husband, of course, he's like, what is happening right now? And then I'm talking to them and he's sitting there just watching. And then he goes, who was in the car with us? And I said, well, you know how I see these guys all the time. And I said, they came in to see if I was okay.
Oh,
And I said, but then I had that one split second where I thought, am I dead now? Because
yeah.
here you guys are. But I was like, but these are not my ancestors, guardians, guides, family members. Like that's not who's here. I'm not looking down on anything. I've had near-death experiences, so I know what that's like. So I was like, that's not happening. Because when I had surgery in 2022, I totally left my body and saw myself down there and thought, oh, well, no one's here for me. So I need to get back in my body. It is not my time.
Yeah.
And so I know what that's like, but it was so funny. It's like, this is very
But
cool.
it was
Thanks for checking.
traumatic, right? I
Yeah.
mean, it was a trauma. And so all those things that you could have thought are very
Mhm.
logical things that you could have thought, but you were traumatized. And,
Right.
so
Right.
you're not going to.
Exactly.
Well, it was very kind of them to
Yes, it was
check
very,
on you.
very sweet. Like, thank you for checking on me. I said, did you check on everyone that gets in an accident? And they said, yes, but most people don't see us. And I said,
Mm.
okay.
Mm.
Well, that's really, I'm sure they feel your energy though and feel comforted
Yeah,
by that. This is a very
yeah.
strong, supportive, like protective energy, very
Wow,
intense. But yeah, pretty amazing.
that is
I don't even know
amazing.
what you're talking about.
What?
I'm lost in my story.
No worries. So, speaking of helping people, helping the humans, tell us about your program and how people can get in touch with you and uh, join up with you.
Okay. My work consists of two things primarily. I'm a hypnotherapist, board certified, and that is a role where any behavioral change that you want, really, literally could be anything. Could be nail biting, could be smoking, could be anxiety, any number of things can be worked through with hypnosis, which I love. So that is a good chunk of what I do. And then I have my mediumship mentoring program, which everyone within it isn't necessarily a medium. They're all intuitive, which is basically all humans. All humans are intuitive. And then some of them are mediums and some of them are intuitive in whatever other way. And the way that works is they sign up for 10 sessions with me one-on-one. And then we also, so like twice a month, I'll meet with them. And then once a month we meet as a group. And I love that because then we can all share our learning journey together. And it's actually, now that because we started this group in October, and so everyone knows each other pretty well now, and they are helping each other and working stuff out and sharing things. And it's been really beautiful to see that progression from me leading them through a discussion to me just kind of moderating and chiming in here and there, but letting them work stuff out and problem solve and form their relationships amongst each other. Because my goal was to form a collective of intuitives that will just expand and grow on, every time new people come in, and so they may be finished with their 10 sessions, and then like some people will sign up for more sessions and just continue on, or they'll drop out for a while and then come back. Like, these are all the intentions, but the monthly call will always be open to whoever has ever been enrolled in this, so they can always join in and form those relationships. I think the power of the people is really essential. That's how we're going to get
Exactly.
through. Just like
Exactly.
send that positive light out there and attract more of it. So that's my main goal. The way to get in touch with me, easiest is probably just to text me and let me know where you saw me. So I'm not like, who's texting me? And then just like podcast, blah, 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 and your name. And then I can get in touch and we can set up a one-on-one complimentary consultation for an hour to talk about anything that you might be interested in learning, or any questions that you might have for me. See if we're a good energetic fit, all of that wonderful stuff. I
Awesome.
love those consults. Those are
Yeah.
such a fun way to meet people.
We'll make sure that information gets in the description.
Wonderful.
Do you have any parting words for us? Little bit of a message as we leave here.
Yeah, yeah. My greatest joy is sharing with people who have never had an understanding that we are not alone, that we are not alone. You know, in your darkest moment or in your greatest moment of joy. If you want to share with someone, just speak out. Talk to them. Talk to your ancestors, guardians, or, and guides. I kind of lump them all together, but it could be anybody. You could just say, ancestors, guardians, and guides, I know you're around. Whoever's here, I want to share this with you, or I need your guidance, or I need your help, or I need your support, and they will show up for you. So that is the best thing, because even though I am in solitude a large portion of the time for what I do and the meditative work that I do, I am not ever alone. There's always somebody around, some energy around that is there to support me. And it's a beautiful thing.
That is extremely comforting to know, isn't it?
Yeah, it absolutely is.
That's fabulous. Thank you so much for that.
You're
And
welcome.
Amber, thank you for being here. It's been a fantastic conversation. I really enjoyed it. Thank you so
Thank you.
much.
You're welcome. Have the
All right.
best day.
You too. We'll talk again soon. Okay.
Okay.